This is Detroit Allycat, and I'm happy to have you back on my channel. So I haven't seen you in a while, so how have you been? I am so happy to see you. If this is your first time tuning in, I like to talk about spooky, scary stuff, true crime, unboxing, anything abnormal and weird. And, you know, it's been a really weird year, so there's a lot to talk about. But today is going to be extra fun, because we are going to pretend that I can speak Russian. Yay! It's going to be so much fun. So, we're going to go to Krasnodar, Russia. I'm sure I said that wrong. I'm not Russian. Big surprise, right? So, we're going to talk about the Krasnodar cannibals, which is a very interesting little story. So let's go ahead and hit it. So without further ado, let's get spooky. Spooky. It's come to my attention that other channels, they all have this theme song, or they do this I am blah blah blah. So I prepared a song for you. Are you guys ready? No, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. There's not going to be a song. So if you were concerned that I was going to break into some kind of bizarre MC Hammer chant for you, you do not have to worry about it. I am not going to do that. But what I am going to ask you to do is to subscribe, ring my bell, leave a comment, do a thumbs up. A lot of you guys like to watch me and not do anything but be a creeper. And I don't mind creepers, that's fine, that's cool. You can be creepy. But I think if you want to just, leave a comment or something, that would be nice. I'm just saying. Alright, let's stop. I'll tell you the story of Natalia and Dmitry. So I know from personal experience that Dmitry can be shortened to Dima. I don't know if this Dmitry went by Dima, but we're going to call him Dima because it's kind of easy for me to say. Not that Dmitry is hard, but, So this couple, their name was Natalia and Dmitry Dima Baksheev. I'm really hoping I said Baksheev correctly, because that seems like it would be a fairly simple name to say, but you never know. You should never underestimate my ability to mispronounce something. Let's talk about Dima. He was kind of an odd fellow. He was known in the area as being very quiet, and he didn't have a lot of friends. He didn't talk very often. And honestly, I didn't really think he was that weird looking. I saw pictures of him when he was a teenager. He looked normal. I don't know what a cannibal would look like, right? I don't know if I told you that or not, but we're going to be talking about cannibals today. Dmitry, he had kind of an interesting past. He was adopted by his mother and father. I guess they couldn't have children, and his mother really wanted a child, so she decided that she was going to go ahead and adopt Dima. She really cared about him, but I guess they were a very strict family, which I would imagine most families in Russia would be strict. I feel like this is something that's fairly common there. I don't know for sure. I've never been to Russia. I feel like his father was kind of strict with him. And the reason I think this is because his mother ended up getting cancer when he was 15 or 16, and she ended up dying. And I guess it really hit him very, very hard. But, his father, or the man that called himself his father while his mother was alive, he gave him a loaf of bread, and he was like, okay, so now the woman that adopted you is dead, and really I didn't want you, so here is a loaf of bread, take care, fare thee well, you can leave now, get out. And that was that. I don't really know many people who would not be messed up by that. And the thing is that I have actually studied a lot of true crime in Russia because it fascinates me, their prison system, just their culture, the crimes that they commit, their military, like, it's so interesting. And I think it's interesting because, like, when you compare it to America, it's like America is, like, going through some stuff right now. But I feel like Russia, like, they went through some stuff already. So it's, like, weird because it's, like, we seem to be, like, headed down this path, but Russia's already been down that path. So I like to, like, learn about it because, you know, communism, it's kind of a thing, right? Anyway, so Dima gets kicked out of the house that he lived in because his mother dies. So what does he do? You've got to do something when you live in Russia and you've been kicked out. And I've actually found out, like, a lot of males in the time that Dima was kicked out did the same thing that Dima did. They turned to petty crime and theft and gangs and all that stuff, and that's what he did. He, like, got busted for stealing things, petty crimes, doing a lot of stuff, you know, being like a little hustler. I mean, but who can really blame you? Like, what are you supposed to do when you're homeless? There's, like, you can't do very much. You've got a couple things you can do. You can, like, survive, or you know, I don't know. You just, that's what happens. And I've noticed that, like, there's been a lot of Russian men in their 20s because of the system around the 80s or 90s when Dima was that age that, you know, fell into this, like, petty crime thing because they wanted to make money, and there's not, like, a lot of opportunities like here in America. But he makes it through. He figures it out. He ends up getting, like, a decent job. I'm pretty sure he, like, became an engineer or he worked on something, but he had a decent job. And so he was doing pretty good until he met Natalia, who, you know how two people are, like, really good for each other and bring out the best in each other? Well, you see, Natalia and Dima, they kind of brought out the worst in each other because they really, like, I'll just tell you about Natalia because she's kind of, like, I feel like she was the one in charge, to be honest. And, like, if she wanted something done, she would tell him, like, hey, go take care of this for me. And he would do it because, I mean, I feel like he was kind of like a puppy, like, had been kicked around just too much. So he was very easily manipulated and definitely had some mom issues. Natalia was really interesting because she had been married prior to meeting Dima, and I guess her husband died. They don't really go into why he died, but it's kind of interesting that he died when you find out more about her. So Natalia was actually a nurse, which really makes kind of sense. So she was a nurse, and I believe she was a nurse at the sanitation department of the Krasnodar Higher Education Aviation School. That is a mouthful. So I don't know how you become a nurse in Russia. Like I said, I don't live in Russia. But being a nurse is kind of like, that's kind of like a good job. And it's a hard job. Like, I've taken nursing classes back in the day when I thought I was going to be a nurse. And I gotta tell you, those classes were kind of hard. So she couldn't have been a dummy. And she worked there, and she actually ended up getting fired because of her problem with alcohol. So she liked to drink, which I feel has a lot to do with where Dima and Natalia went, even though we can't blame it completely on, you know, alcohol. I guess she had an apartment, and her apartment she lived in, and it was inherited from her first husband. And it was actually a dorm, I think, on the aviation school, which is really weird. Like, how do you inherit a dorm? But I guess you do. You inherit a dorm. And what's interesting is that Natalia had a son with her first husband, and they don't really talk about him very much. In fact, they don't even mention his name, which I think they did because he was being protected in sorts, because I think that they realized, like, he realized what was going on, and eventually he left when he was like 17 or 18. He was just like, I'm getting out of here. I'm out of this house. And I think it's because of the things that Dima and Natalia were doing. So let's talk about the things that Dima and Natalia were doing. Dima and Natalia were cannibals. And when I say they were cannibals, I mean they like to eat people. Like, straight up eat people. And, like, it's so crazy because they like to take pictures of the people that they like to eat. Like, there's this picture of a head on a platter with all these oranges laid around it, and the eyes are olives, and it's just like sitting on this platter, and it's like put out like a Thanksgiving turkey, and it's just like the Silence of the Lambs Russian style. But I don't know it. So let's talk about how they got caught, and then I'll go into like what happened and all the other stuff. They think that they had started as early as 1996 or 7, which I find kind of crazy because they didn't get caught until like 2017. How many people did they kill? We don't really know, but we're going to talk about, the facts that surround this. Dima went to work, and I believe he had a lot of problems. He wasn't like, I don't want to say unintelligent, but I mean, just kind of not the, I don't know if you've ever watched Pinky and the Brain, he was definitely the Pinky out of the group. So he has his phone, and like I told you, Natalia and Dima love to take pictures of all of the things that they did. He's got this phone with all these pictures of these people, and when I say people, it was mostly women, that they like cut up and did things to do, and like just gross stuff. And he drops it and loses it at work. Well, some of his coworkers found the phone, and they were like, well, let's figure out whose phone this is. Let's be real. They didn't really care whose phone this is. They just wanted to see what was on it, because, that's how people are. They go through the phone, and they start looking at the pictures, and they start seeing, these, pictures of, body parts and, these pickled meats that are human, and heads and fingers, and then there's, a picture of Dima with this hand in his mouth, and it's, a really... It's got manicured nails, it's females, and he's like, argh! And I know I'm making a joke out of it, and that's just not really funny, but yeah, so that's what was on his phone, because those are the kind of selfies Dima took. His coworkers were like, I'm gonna take this phone and I'm gonna give it to the police because this is kind of creepy. They give it to the police, and somehow they track down Dima, and they track down Natalia. And so at first they're like, they don't think that Natalia has anything to do with it, because women, they could never kill anybody, not a woman. They sit Dima down, and they're like, okay, hey, can you talk to me about these pictures? Tell me what's up with these pictures. And he's like, oh yeah, I found this body in this bush, and I just took a lot of pictures of it because that's what you do when you find a body in a bush. And they're like, oh, that's what you did. And so then they pull in Natalia, and they're like, hey, we found your man's phone, and he's got these pictures in his phone. What do you think about this, Natalia? And she's like, oh my god, are you kidding me? I can't believe it. He did this? And they're like, yeah. And so they start talking to her, and they start realizing, she knows something. They could just tell, something wasn't right. I guess she, slipped up in her story, and she got caught, and they were all in Russian style, we know, Natalia, we know you had something to do with this. And she was like, okay, but there was only one. So they're like, we're gonna go check out the house. So they go to the house, which is weird because they said that they lived in a dorm, but then they said they lived in a house. So I'm not sure what it was. I think that they eventually graduated from living in an apartment to a house. I'm not sure how. Maybe Dmitry made a lot of money, but they lived in a house. So they go to this house and they're like, okay, we're gonna go look in this house. Now, first off, this house is not clean. Like, I've been like over a couple Russian people's houses and they're always like super, like, they just got this like, I don't know, European class. It's always like, it's comfy, it's clean, it's nice. Maybe this is being very stereotypical of me, but it just seems like a thing. Like, to like have everything nice and clean and comfy. This house looks like hoarders on steroids. Like, it's bad. Well, I mean, it's not that bad. You can walk through it, but it's just like, it's a hot mess. Like, there's stuff everywhere, and like, you could tell like nobody's clean. Like, there's dishes everywhere, and then like, you go in the kitchen and there's like, it looks like a wig just sitting there, right? Just sitting there, this nice, like, it's a curled wig. It looks like it's been done. Like, Kim Kardashian is ready to wear this wig. They check out the wig, and it's attached to a head of a woman. At this point, they're like, okay, we're gonna have to process the whole house. So they open up the refrigerator, and lo and behold, there are like jars, pickled, like, meats, but they're human. And then there's like frozen meats, like steaks, but they're human. And then like they go in their bedroom, and I don't know where they sleep, but in the bed they have like all these pictures, like processed, developed pictures, which what CVS is getting these pictures and processing them and not wondering like, oh, look, there's a head, you know? Like, that doesn't make very much sense, just to be honest with you, you know? But there's all these pictures of these, like, dead bodies, and, like, there's the picture of, like, the platter, the Thanksgiving platter head with the oranges all over, and they're, like, going through it, and they're like, yeah, man, there's problems. And so they go downstairs, they find more bodies, they find bodies out in the, surrounding the house, and so they, like, sit Dima down there, like, hey, dude, how many people have you killed? And they're like, we just killed one. And so they went back to Natalia, and they're like, Natalia, how many people have you killed? And she's like, just one. They figure out, like, Natalia's, like, harder to work with. Like, she's not gonna tell you the honest information. So they go back to Dima, and they're like, we know it's more than one because there's more parts. And so he says that he thinks that there's about 30, but he's not sure. 30. Now, while this investigation was underway, somebody inside the Russian police, they ended up leaking the pictures of what happened, and it became like some kind of like huge ordeal because everyone was talking about it as like the cannibals of Krasnodar. There's a family of cannibals, and they're like talking about it, and it's like all this information. It's kind of bad. I don't know why, but it was bad because they leaked out the information, and people were very upset with the cannibals that lived at their house. And so they tried to figure out like how they did it. And so Dima told them like, this is how that we did it. They would go on these like dating sites, like, you know, Russian Tinder. So they would go on there and they would be like, hey, we want to hook up with you, go out drinking, have a wild time, and like have like this thing. And so they talked about like the woman who, you know, basically broke open the case. Her name was, are you ready? It's that time for me to mess up a Russian name. It's Alina Baksheeva. Now, we all know it's not Alina Baksheeva. I probably got the Alina part right, but that second part, I'm sorry, Alina. I'm sorry, wherever you are. Don't be mad, okay? My last name is kind of difficult for people too. Alina went out with Dima and Natalia. They were going drinking because that was like what Natalia liked to do. They liked to drink. Apparently, they were both, Dima and both Natalia were like big alcoholics. They take Alina out and they start getting drunk. And so Alina is having a good time. What does she do? I mean, she met them on a dating site. She starts flirting with Dima, like, you know, hey, what's up? I'm a little tipsy. You want to have some fun? So Natalia's not having it. Like, she's not having it at all. Like, that's not cool. Don't be flirting with my man. I don't want you to touch him. And like, Alina and Natalia get into this big fight, and they're like fighting. Like, and this just proves what I think. Natalia was like, Dima, kill her. Like, right now. I don't want this bitch anymore. I'm not allowed to swear. I don't want this girl in our lives anymore. I would like to cook her and eat her instead. So just go ahead and, get rid of Alina. Sorta. He stabs her to death, and they decide to take back her body, and they process it up, and that's the picture of the hand in Dima's mouth, just chilling. And like, they were really, like, I don't know, like, they really were into their cannibalism, because Natalia actually made a cookbook for cannibals. Like, okay, if you want to make a stuffed head, this is how you do it, and this is how you tenderize it, and this is how you cook it. Like, she had a cookbook on how to eat humans. Just a cookbook. Can you imagine, like, the police looking, like, through the house, and they're finding all this stuff, and then they find this, like, homemade Betty Crocker, like, for Thanksgiving, we're going to be making stuffed thigh of woman. And, like, I don't know. Talia actually gets convicted of enticement. Enticement. Not even murder, just enticement. So she spends, like, 1.5 years in prison, and the other 10 years she's been ordered to be in a penal colony. I didn't even know that there were penal colonies still in Russia. Like, I thought that was like a old kind of timey thing, but apparently there are still penal colonies in Russia. And I gotta tell you, I would not want to be in one, because I'm pretty sure they're like up in Siberia, and they're like 18 hours a day, like peeling something or sewing something. I don't know. I don't think it's good. It's bad. But that's where Natalia is. Then Dima, he is actually sentenced to 12 years for killing 30 people. I just feel like 12 years is kind of a small sentence, especially because I've looked at like a lot of the people that have gone to the prisons in Russia, and like if they kill one person, they'll be in there for like 20 years, especially if it's brutal. Like, they've got this prison, I'm gonna do like a whole story on it. It's called the Blue Dolphin. Like, this place is no joke. You don't want to go to the Blue Dolphin. You think, oh no, it's not the Blue Dolphin, it's the Black Dolphin. You do not want to go to the Black Dolphin. Like, that's where nightmares are made of. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure. But he gets sent to a maximum prison, which is code for you are going to the coldest, most loneliest, saddest, scariest place that we have, and we're throwing you away. And that's what they did to Dima. And I know that it's weird that I'm going to say that I feel bad for a cannibal, but I do. I feel bad for Dima because I feel like he never had, like, a chance, because 1 year after he had been... No, it's not 1 year. February of 2020... he actually ended up passing away, and the reason that he passed away was because he died of type 1 diabetes just not being treated. They didn't treat him. Like, and that's how the prisons are in, like, Russia. Like, I can't say that they're all like that, but, like, I've seen and, like, studied some of them, and they're just... you don't want to mess up in those countries. Like, you do not. Like, they don't mess around. Like, they don't care. You got a toothache, we're going to rip that right out of your mouth with no Novocaine. You shut up, you stupid person. That's the kind of stuff they do there. And so he died. And it's just sad because it's like he lived in an orphanage, then he was adopted, and then, like, when his adoptive mom died, his father gave him a loaf of bread and was like, take care. And then he met Natalia, and Natalia probably, like, was like, here, have some vodka, let's have some fun. And then before he knew it, he was eating women. Which, can't put it all on Natalia, but it did. He just didn't have a good setup. Like, the foundation of this man's life was messed up. Yeah, that's my story of the cannibals of Krasnodar. I hope you enjoyed my story about the cannibals of Krasnodar. There's a lot of very odd true crime in Russia, and I really don't want to like go dive too deep into it, but like there are some things that I want to talk about. Like, I mean, not a lot of people talk about Chikatilo, and if you don't know who Chikatilo is, maybe you will on my channel. You'll just have to keep watching. So I really suggest you subscribe so you can find out who Chikatilo is, because he was kind of up there, like, with, like, all the crazy serial killers, to be honest. Oh, and that's another thing before I let you go. When they got Natalia and Dima Baksheeva, is that right? Baksheev, Natalia and Dima Baksheev, they weren't, like, convicted as serial killers. They were convicted as group killers. Now, I don't know if that was just lost in the translation, because I've noticed that some things can be said one way in English and then it translates this way, that way, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. Group killers? I've never heard of that. But anyway, I hope you are having an amazing day. I hope that you are staying safe. I hope you are hiding from the rest of the world because they've lost their minds. And I'm so happy that you came to my channel, and yeah. So, alright, stay spooky, stay safe, bye!